Hi, my name is Alice. I'm a volunteer with Mast Action. I run the monthly creative Zoom and I also help host the weekly community Zoom. And yeah, I just wanted to share what I believe is the cause of my mast cell linked to childhood trauma. Um, I'm going to, the way I'm going to do it, I'm just going to get that part out of the way and then I'm just going to focus on what was happening in my body at that time. I grew up in a really violent home. I would overhear my dad beating my mum, and he died when I was 5. So it left my kind of knowledge of him just one of violence. There was nothing good that I really can remember. Um, and I thought things would improve, but they just got so much worse. Um, and as I got older, my brothers would beat me. Um, any form of abuse you can think of, I've seen it. Been there, done that. Kind of got the T-shirt, physical, verbal, sexual. Um, and in my body at that time, I remember being age 3 and my joints were really sore. And it was because my joints were dislocating between the ages of 3 and 5. My bowel was constantly bagged up. And I remember I was drinking sort of Fibogel, it was called, just to try and keep my bowel working. Um, Sorry, I've got a list. So it goes back a long way. And my chest was always tight, felt like I couldn't breathe. Constantly feeling sick after I ate. Car sick was horrendous, which I never realized until recently. That is a kind of mast cell thing, which I didn't realize. Um, and by 10, things kind of cranked up. Like I started to have severe nosebleeds and fatigue. I don't remember the terms, but I got the kind of camera up my nose where it looks into your stomach and everything, but nothing major was found. Then by 11, I started periods, and that just seemed to crank it up kind of hormonally. A lot more stuff going on, heart racing. And then my bowel changed. It changed from being really bagged up to being really loose at that point. Um, I was diagnosed with IBS around 16 and hypermobility. I also had my appendix taken out, but there was nothing wrong with my appendix. Um, and then in my 20s is when kind of anaphylaxis started happening. I just seemed to be reacting to everything. It didn't matter what I did, what I ate, where I was. It was just constant in and out of hospital with kind of anaphylaxis type reactions. 22, I had my first child. By the time he was 3, I actually had a home help coming in to wash me, dress me, get me ready for the day. They thought I had MS or lupus or something like that, but nothing came back. All the tests came back negative, and that was a really tough time. And then a doctor said, "I wonder if you're allergic to anti-inflammatories," because at that time my feet were so swollen. They looked like big kind of Coco the Clown feet. They were just massive, and I couldn't weight bear. I couldn't sleep without. I used to have a little table under the covers, under the duvet to stop it hitting my legs. It was just so painful. So he said, let's stop all your anti-inflammatories because I was on so much medication. I think at that point in time, I was on between 15 and 17 medications a day. But each medication was causing a side effect, and then I'd be on another one, and then another one, and then another one. And it was just ridiculous. So I stopped all the anti-inflammatories and then gradually stopped everything else. And things kind of they settled. I mean, I still had a lot of angioedema on my hands and my feet, but things actually settled down a lot. In my kind of mid 20s, I found out the reason that my mum just hadn't protected me, and wasn't what you expect a typical mum to be. I discovered, well, she told me that it was the result of a rape. My dad had violently raped her. She also tried to abort me, and it didn't work. So life kind of, I was like, okay, now it makes sense. But then I was raging, and then I was kind of looking back over my life, and I recognized that I was just on red alert. I was just on that fight or flight mode. constantly. It never stopped. It never switched off. I remember walking to school just in complete daisy. So I just, in a complete daze, just looking back, thinking, right, okay, um, we'll just jump over that. Um, and in 2016, I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And I learned a lot more about how the brain works and what's happening. I don't have all the, I don't understand it all, but when you're operating at that level of kind of fight or flight, it takes its toll on your body. And I think it just wreaked havoc in mine. So I had a year of really in-depth trauma counselling. Um, it did it did make a massive, massive difference, and things did settle. But I think with the MCAS side of stuff, it kind of goes up and down, and then it goes up, and then it settles, and then it goes up. In between that time, I've had a spanglion hernia repaired. I've had detached retina and cataracts treated, which is a bit mad considering I've only just turned 52. Yeah, so I went through a messy divorce. I used to live on the Isle of Man, and then I came back home. And on the Isle of Man, to be fair, I think it was because I was outside in the fresh air and on the beach, bare feet. I actually kept really well. I didn't have a lot of reactions. I moved there in 2006, and I was there for 9 years. And I actually kept really well. The fatigue was really bad, and my bowel was really loose. But as in reactions or anything like that, there was nothing really, and I wasn't on any medications at all. I came back to Scotland in 2015, and then I don't know if it was uh, air quality or because Isle of Man's a tiny island in the middle of the Irish Sea, um, whereas it's more congestion, things kind of started creeping back in again, a lot of angioedema on my hands and my face. But again, nothing major. And got remarried in 2017, started working in a nursing home, and worked through the worst of COVID. And again, nothing. I was fine, still not on any medication, still keeping really well. And then when the restrictions started to lift, and the world started to open up again, I started to get angioedema again, facial swelling, hands, painful feet. And I started taking anti-inflammatories at that point, which I hadn't been on for absolute years. And at the time, I suspected it was the stress from working through COVID in a nursing home because it was such a difficult place. It was such a difficult place to work in during COVID. And I believe my body was just reacting to the stress of that. Jump forward again, 2022, in December, I got COVID, and I was just in pain. I didn't have the classical COVID symptoms. I didn't have a bad cough. I didn't have, you know, anything like that. I was just in pain throughout my entire body. And I've not been back to work since. Um, I think the COVID just triggered everything that was already bubbling under the surface because of stress. When I got COVID, it just kicked everything up in the air. So much so that today I use a mobility scooter or wheelchair to get around. From the MCAS point of view, a lot of angioedema, a lot of loose bowel, um, and I actually got a diagnosis through my doctor treating me, looking at my medical history and treating me as if I had MCAS, kind of put me on a massive stabilizer, gave me, changed my antihistamines and tweaked a few things. And I have a diagnosis. And I only got that diagnosis September last year. So to have gone all that time, basically my entire life with symptoms, that was massive because I've had some horrendous trips to the hospitals over the years. I had a situation where I had this half of my face was swollen and this half wasn't. It was just bizarre things I would end up in hospital for over the years. Um, but yeah, I don't think there's really much else to say. Apart from I believe that my MCAS started through childhood trauma. I believe my body for years has been in that fight or flight mode, and it doesn't know. It's getting better at it, but it doesn't know how to switch that off completely. Um, but it is doing much better than it was.